understanding of the full scope of history was you were mentioning the number of forced labor camps in Arab countries. Now, this is not something that in most of the textbooks that I've ever read, or even in the Holocaust museums that I've been to in Berlin or in California or in Washington. Can you tell me a little bit more about this and why you think that this is a best kept secret?
One of the biggest discoveries that I personally made was the fact that the hand of the Nazi regime didn't limit itself to exterminating Jews of Europe. The Nazis expanded their anti-Semitic machinery to North Africa, and the fact is that very few people, even I dare say people who are knowledgeable, very knowledgeable on the subject of the Holocaust, have not included our narrative, which is the narrative of the Jews from the Arab countries, that if they were foreign nationals, if they had British nationality or Italian or any other European nationalities, very often were shipped off to Auschwitz and other concentration camps in Europe, whereas the people such as my family members and other people who had been living in North Africa for hundreds of years, they created labor camps throughout North Africa. It's estimated that almost 100 such labor camps were established. And Robert Satloff, S-A-T-L-O-F-F, Satloff, who's a scholar from one of the American think tank institutes, went to Morocco to do research on this subject, and he wrote a very extensive book on this subject. I highly recommend it. It's called Amongst the Righteous, and it's a book that addresses the subject. Now, there is very little known, but we have enough documentation that all of these camps should be not just incorporated, but an emphasis has to be made and to educators and to people who are, archivists and docents and so forth that teach the history of the Holocaust, that although the Nazis were only in North Africa and in Tunisia for a short period of time, nonetheless they were partners and allied with the Vichy government, which implemented Nuremberg-style laws in France. So all the laws that applied to French Jews applied to Jews of North Africa as well, because they were there, colonizing North Africa. And then you had the fascist regimes headed by Mussolini, who was also partnering with Hitler. So what we don't, it's easy to forget that when Mussolini became allied with Hitler, he had to use, again, anti-Jewish and racial laws. And that's how he treated the Jews of Italy, and that's how the Jews of North Africa, especially of Libya, were treated. And many members, for example, in one camp, which was called Giado, G-I-A-D-O, camp which was established by the fascists, there were several hundred people in that camp, and 500 Jews died there of disease and starvation.